Hi, welcome to the Elle Russ Show, where I deliver content intended to inspire, educate, and motivate. Engage with me online at elleruss.com and on social media. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, today I am going to do a solo episode talking about the common denominator, how we are the common denominators in our problems, in the things that we complain about. How do we detect it? And how do we do the investigative work to sort of get to the bottom of it so we can change it, because they are affecting our life negatively. So you've probably heard this before, and in general, maybe you've seen it in your own life. Let's say you keep having a theme that comes up for you, but other people around you aren't having the same problem. Or it's something that, again, keeps happening. You're like, God, why do I keep attracting all these assholes like that come in to date? Or why am I always just like right on the edge of making it every month with money? And it always works out, but it's like always to the dollar. Like, why am I always literally in this spiral, right? Like in that example, one would say, well, it's interesting that I end up making it barely, but then what's that about, right? So one of the examples that I use in Confident as Fuck, and if you've heard this before, I will be giving some new examples in a minute, but is the case of Brandon, who is now in his 40s, but for the past couple of decades in his work environment, before he fixed this and realized he was the common denominator, he kept having issues with being on contracts. And this one producer, manager of these contracts, would yell and scream at him in front of everybody because something would go wrong, and they would blame Brandon for it, even though it wasn't Brandon's fault. He had nothing to do with whatever problem happened. And Brandon would just shut up and never say anything and take it. Now, right here, I'm going to stop because this is an interesting moment. Most of you out there can see that there might be a difference between how you would react to patronizing talk or someone speaking to you in a certain way when they're your boss or in some position of, quote, power, yet you wouldn't allow it in your real life. Okay, so I just want to set that aside for a minute, because that is always a part of these situations. Which you are not willing to take in one, you are willing to take in another. There's an incongruency there, and that's usually where you can shore up confidence and self-esteem, is by looking at these common denominator situations. So in this common denominator, Brandon and I were talking, and I said, well, this is interesting because of all the people I've spoken to about work stuff, I've never heard this one. Like, you repetitively get blamed for shit that goes wrong and that's not your fault? So I said, what's this about? Did you have girlfriends in high school that were shitty and did that to you? Did you have issues growing up with people in positions of authority? Like, were you always made to be wrong somewhere? And digging a little bit, it was really a quick answer. Brandon's dad, even though they grew up in a great household, everyone got fed, no one was abused, everyone had education. Father was a little bit of a hothead. And so, like, say the father was, couldn't find the hammer in his toolbox, he'd start yelling, oh, I know you stole the hammer, Brandon. Where is it? Give me the hammer. And Brandon would be like, I didn't take the hammer. And his dad would rant and rave. And then his dad would eventually find the hammer and never apologize, right? Like, never go up to Brandon and go, hey, sorry, obviously you didn't take it. I found it in my trunk or whatever, right? And this happened a few times. So I said, well, all right, here it is. Here it is. This is a place where you were repetitively made to be wrong or blamed for something that wasn't your fault. And then no one ever actually came back and apologized for how they spoke to you, etc. So now you might be out there being like, yeah, that's kind of weird, huh? It's not really that weird. It's sort of, it's very in line with law of attraction, vibrational. What kind of energy are you putting out there, right? For example, for me, I just do not get challenged often on confidence because I don't give out the vibe that you should patronize me or talk down to me or any of that kind of stuff, right? And even just hearing me talk, you can be like, yeah, right? It's not like I walk around with a sign that says, hey, don't fuck with me, you're messing with the wrong person, but it's just that I have this vibe, I don't expect it, and I also don't feel beholden or powered less than anyone. I don't feel beneath anyone. So I don't feel like I have to act differently. And so and of course, obviously, I'm confident as fuck. That's not my area that I have problems with, but I may have something over here that you've mastered, right? That you figured out that I haven't. Absolutely. I am not on a pedestal here. But with regards to confidence, with regards to this, it's very interesting. We're willing to draw boundaries in our personal life sometimes, and sometimes not, but then don't draw them elsewhere when it's the same abuse. So in talking to Brandon, I said, all right, well, here's the deal. First of all, we have to look at, like, you don't have to be wrong. Can we just talk about that? Let's just get into the vibe of, you unraveling, you don't have to be wrong. You're not wrong. You never did anything. Yet you're acting and feeling and putting out the vibration of someone who does stuff that's wrong and is about to do stuff that's wrong and is going to get blamed for stuff that's wrong. So that took some work. And then basically the day came where I said to Brendan, okay, you have a choice here. This is going to continue to happen over and over unless you finally step up and speak up. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get this challenge, continue to bring in this theme you hate that's effing up your life and your work life and how you feel and your stress at work and all this stuff. Now, if you do have to speak up in these kind of environments, yeah, make sure your mortgage is paid, you got enough money in the bank. If you're really fearful that you would be fired for something like that, I mean, listen, you could always sue for wrongful termination, but things like that take a while, right? So again, you have to gauge what's right for you, what's that risk. But you know what? Brandon had sort of had enough and he was ready to take that risk and had enough money and really wasn't worried about maybe getting another contract somewhere else. So just realize this is the time. Now, a couple things here. I do believe this. There's no scientific proof of what I'm about to say, but I do believe that when you actually step up to something that's a theme that's bothering you, that's negative, and you step up and you actually say something, you take control, you do something about it, that's a pro you move. And you get a prize for that. The universe really responds to that, but it's really you responding to it because it's your subconscious. You're finally saying, no, I love myself too much that I'm not going to put up with this fucking bullshit. I love myself, and no self-love move goes without a prize. So anyway, Brandon comes time for him to speak up. And I suggest that he say something very short. Like I said, the next time this happens and you get blamed for something that went wrong, and then you get yelled at for it in front of everyone, you're going to need to just sort of say something firmly like, hey, I am not going to be spoken to in that way. And if you continue to patronize me, I'm walking off this set right now. Something like that. The day came, it happened, something happened, went wrong, he got blamed, and he spoke up in front of everyone. And he said almost exactly that. It was scary. It was uncomfortable. I'm sure Brandon was shaking, right? Nerves, heart rate, maybe sweating. Sure. But the elation and the joy and the level of confidence and fuck yeah, motherfucker kind of vibe after that, yeah, I wish I could bottle it because it's so profound and amazing. And what is that? It's saying, wow, I accepted abuse. And now I'm saying I'm not going to accept it. There's all sorts of levels of abuse. But being patronized and blamed and yelled at for shit that's not your fault, yeah, it's abusive. F that guy, right? Absolutely. Now, usually when there's a bully that has gotten away with behavior like this for a while, they are not expecting anybody to call them on it. It's the last thing they're expecting. So when you do, you usually win because they're stunned, because someone called them on their shit, because they thought they had power in that moment and they were using their confidence as dominance in a negative way, no different than a con man. Just to berate Brandon, berate him, make him feel stupid in front of everyone, show everybody you better be afraid of me. Those people are not used to people calling them on their shit. When you do, they crumble. And that is exactly what happened. He was stunned. The manager was like, I'm sorry, and apologized. Now, it didn't happen again after that, but I did tell Brandon, listen, you're going to get a tester. Okay, once you have a theme that's been going on for so damn long, you finally speak up, you step up, you change, you take action, whatever it is. I guarantee you it's going to pop up again to be like, did you really get it though? Like, are you really that person or did you just act that one way once? Let's see that you got it. Look, there's no science behind that. These are my thoughts and my feelings about how I see that it's worked in my own life, clients' lives, friends' lives. So anyway, Brandon started to get more jobs with new contractors, new managers came in, and he stopped working for this person. And to this day, that person still calls them and asks them if they wants to be on the job. And Brandon's like, nope, I'm busy, because he's like, you know what? I'm done with that guy. So Brandon moved on, and great new bosses. In fact, after each contract from there on out, after he spoke up, people would email him and say, what a smooth job. Oh my God, amazing. We loved you. Great to work with, blah, blah, blah. Brandon would call me, oh my God, I have all the work with these amazing people and they're giving me so many accolades, like getting the recognition and admiration that he deserved. And I said, okay, you're going to get a tester though. Just be prepared for it. And so like a year went by or something, and then he got a tester. Someone at a new job snipped at him and spoke just like really shitty. And Brandon, without hesitation, just snapped back, was like, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm not going to be spoken to like that. And then again called me afterwards. Oh my God, you would have been so proud of me. Da 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 da. And here's the thing. Why would I be so proud of you or so proud of Brandon? Why would Brandon say that? Because he's proud of himself. Because he knows that what he did was something worth being prideful about because it's honoring you. I'm not going to accept abuse. I'm not going to accept someone talking shitty to me. I won't accept it. So Brandon's been doing great ever since. All the jobs that he works on are great. And every once in a while, he'll call me and be like, oh, so-and-so reached out again for me to work on their job, but definitely not going back to that guy. Right. Because at that point, Brandon's like, well, even though it's not happening with him, it's too much. And I don't want to have to keep fighting it. Right. Like if the person is going to continue the behavior, how many times are you going to say, hey, you can't talk to me that way, before finally you're like, all right, this is the 15th time you've blown up again. Like we're over this. Right. So Brandon was like, let's just move onward and upward, and has ever since. Another thing I noticed that was a theme in someone's life is that they kept having a constant struggle with hiring anyone that they hired, whether it be like a virtual assistant, an assistant, or they hired someone to like a coach or anything where they like sort of hired someone. The person always like didn't do their job, or it was a waste of money, or they just kept going through people. They couldn't find somebody good, you know? And I thought, that's very interesting that you're struggling with that when I over here have zero struggle with that. Right now, where that comes from is a different story. But a lot of places where that could come from is, again, having the expectation that people will fail you. And that can be from earlier in life. For example, if you had parents that always talked about doing things, but then never did them, that creates a level and issues with trust in people that they won't do what they say they're going to do. So I was lucky enough to have parents who, when they said they were going to do something, like we're going to go to this, whatever, the museum next week, we went. I didn't have false promises, right? That doesn't mean that I didn't experience some trust issues in romantic relationships. That's maybe something else, but at least from there, that's not my bag. So it could come from there if it's you. Could come from there. It can come from lots of places, but again, it's a theme because other people aren't struggling with that. Why you? What, you just got a terrible picker for people that you employ? Because you could look at all the resumes and this person would have great conversations with these virtual assistants and these people they were going to be hiring, and they were completely sold that this person was the right person. And every time they were disappointed and let down. Where is that struggle coming from that it continues to be repeated? Right? There is another story. A woman would always have scenarios where friends would bail on her. And where this sort of came from, and she'd have contentious stuff with girlfriends. And I asked her, I said, well, where the hell is this from? Because this is rooted somewhere. And I'm like, I know you have a bunch of older sisters. Is it that? Is it something in high school, grade school? Like, what were your female friends like? And bingo, jingo, jango, here was the moment. She said, I used to like have a friend and then introduce them to like another friend, and we'd all be friends, and then they'd take off together and sort of like X me out. Aha. Well, there you go. Expecting it to happen, maybe even subconsciously choosing people that are going to fulfill that. Because we do repeat patterns that are familiar to us, whether it's healthy or not. That's classic psychology. That's been proven. That's just true. They're not always healthy, right? Like, why would the woman who watched her mother get hit by a guy date a guy who would hit her? That doesn't make logical fucking sense. And it makes no sense emotionally in any way, but it makes sense in terms of psychology. So, what is this about, right? What is the thing you're going through? What's it about? What's your area, your trigger, your theme that keeps happening, right? Do you have an expectation of failure in some area of your life because that's what you were shown, right? I mean, listen, I talk about this in my second book, and my father's dead now, and we had open conversations with him my whole life. He was a great guy, but he was a drunk. And so he was funny and hilarious. He never was nasty to me or my brother. He was not, it was like hanging out with someone who's just partying and having a great time all the time. It doesn't make for a great father in terms of stepping up and paying the bills, but he was like, if you hung out with my dad, you guys would love him. Hilarious, amazing gourmet cook, well traveled, really interesting, knew a lot about history, really fun guy, but kind of a deadbeat loser drunk. And so when I saw this growing up, that there was a time where he was great for like the first, maybe up until I was in like fourth grade. It felt like, oh yeah, my dad's the guy that takes care of the family. He makes money. He knows what he's doing. Everything's good. Then the drinking got more and more out of hand. And he was a stockbroker. And so then he lost a bunch of money. And then it just went down from there. And I saw my mom suffer and left in the dust. And to me, I declared at that moment, as a kid, I was like, never, ever am I going to ever trust a guy or rely on them for money, because this could happen. You could be beholden to them, and then they could fuck off, become a drunk, whatever, lose all the money, and now you're stuck. Shit out of luck with 2 kids, and you've got to step up in your life after being a stay-at-home mom and finally make money. And I saw my mom struggle, and I thought, I'm not doing it. So, but that declaration right there that I talk about in my second book, that declaration of can't trust guys. See, this is why you don't trust them, because that's what happens. That could happen. That could happen. It did happen. I saw that. Don't want it. So what did I do? I was like, I'm going to go make a shitload of fucking money so I never have to be in that situation. And then in the pursuit, I laugh now, but if you've read my second book, it is kind of funny. If you haven't, it will be. But then I laugh because in the pursuit of that, I got physically disabled and then ended up actually pursuing and living my dreams as I am now. Total unexpected turn. That goes to the saying about like, you just don't know what will lead to something else. And you can plan all you want, but the universe will fucking laugh in your face and give you something else and give you a right, left turn out of nowhere. So that was my story. And what did that lead to? It led to literally attracting and dating people who would constantly make that point true and make me right. Confirmation bias. See, there's another one. Told you I can't trust them. They're a cheater. See, told you I can't trust them. They also have issues with money. Can't trust them, non-committed, or whatever the thing was about it. It was some level of unreliability. A theme of unreliable men, right? And so, and there were other themes too. I had issues with vulnerability that I talk about. And so I also would attract people that were emotionally unavailable. Kind of a fucked up twofer on that one, right? So it wasn't really until my cousin, who's real no shit, if you listen to me for a while and you think I'm blunt and to the point, you don't want to hang out with my cousin. She's brutal, maybe too brutal. She just won't even have a good tone with what she'll just tell you straight up. And so I was going through another one of these awful scenarios with some trust issue or unreliability issue with another thing I attracted that made me go, I see they're all awful and can't trust men. And she goes, it's funny. This doesn't happen to me or any of my friends throughout my whole fucking life. So what's the problem with you? Why is it happening to you? And I just was floored. And I looked at her and I go, fuck, you're right. You're right. This was over a decade ago. And then I looked into, and by the way, if you are interested in investigating all the things behind like romantic relationships and where you may or may not be attracting themes there, one of the best books I think is called, it's a 7-week, my God, I cannot believe I don't remember, Catherine Woodward Thomas. And it's basically about, manifesting your soulmate, which she did. Then 10 years later, she got divorced and she wrote a book on the divorce called Conscious Uncoupling, which was made famous by Gwyneth Paltrow. Let me just look up the name of her book because I cannot believe that I don't remember this. This is one of the most famous books. Calling in the One. There it is. Calling in the One is a great book because it examines all of these different scenarios of people she coached and all of their fucked up theme attractions and love and what they did to turn it around. And it wasn't until I read that book and really did some of the work and answered those questions that she poses and shed some tears that I finally started to attract a different type of person in dating. So again, this goes to what we're putting out there, our vibration. What's the theme? Where are you the common denominator? And why? Why you? Why is this happening to you? You know, this all goes to, well, I don't think it's possible for me, or maybe that's for other people, but no, that's not. You can have what you want because you see it around you. You see other people having better relationships than you've had. You see other people being more successful in business than you are, or whatever the thing is you want to achieve. You see other people doing it that are just like you, who don't even have an extra leg up. It is about attraction. Where does that come from? Getting into loving the shit out of yourself, drawing the right boundaries in relationships. And on that note of really speaking up and what I said earlier about the incongruency behind Brandon maybe not allowing people in his personal life to treat him that way, but allowing this contractor, this manager to treat him that way. And so where are you incongruent? Do you allow certain people to talk to you in a certain way? Do you talk to people in a certain way that you wouldn't otherwise? Because I mean, this is one that goes to family and friends. We know this line. Sometimes we are way out of hand and out of line and not nice to our family, but it's our friends that we treat differently, that we wouldn't talk to in the way that we might talk to a family member. That's always something to look at because there's incongruency there too. I remember one time I was on a call with a customer service person from another country for whatever, like a printer problem or whatever it is. And we've all been on these calls. And we all know how frustrating it is because, yes, English is their second language, but also it's because they're reading a script. They've got to go through their protocol, right? We just want to be like, yeah, speed it up, cut the shit, let's get to it. Kind of can't do that with these people. They got to go through their thing. I was not in a great mood that day. And man, I treated them worse than anyone probably treats their family. I just was shitty in my tone and the way it does. It's just shitty. I was shitty. But what I loved about this moment was the person on the other end who, another country, working for a company, had the balls to step up and go, hey, I'm just not going to be spoken to like that anymore. So turn your tone down or I'm hanging up. I didn't get defensive in that moment. I just looked at them and go, because again, like I told you, I was the bully there a little bit and I got called on it. And you go, oh, so I said, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. That was unacceptable. And I also said, and I think it's kick-ass that you actually spoke up and said something. Like, that's an amazing level of confidence. This person could be worried about me calling a plane about them. They could worry about getting fired from their job. They could worry about like, well, I just have to take this shit because I work for this company. I've got to read the script and help these people because this is my job. But he was like, no, you're not going to talk to me that way, you bitch, right? Like, I mean, he was right. He was right. And I'm okay with admitting that that's how I acted and how I got called on it, you know? That's wonderful, right? But I have even lapsed into these moments where you feel like, oh, this is it's person on the phone. It's not like a real person, or I could just treat someone like this, or it's my family member. They'll always be there. So fuck it. I'll talk to them however I want. So those are incongruencies. And obviously that would be a whole nother podcast to talk about all the different ones that have come up in coaching or in my life or my friends and family. So what are the themes? And I guess I would ask yourself after this episode, like, what do I hate that keeps happening to me and not people around me? What do I not like? And it could be as simple as like, I never get a fucking parking space wherever I go. I mean, like literally, it could be something dumb, seemingly dumb and innocuous. But if you try to find all these ways, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And then you will be in a self-love baseline to be able to attract truly what it is that you want and stop attracting things that are just repeating confirmation bias of some declaration or some belief you have about men, people, employers, jobs, right? There are people who've always had a shitty boss. I've had great, like my employment history, fantastic. I've never gone anywhere where the people didn't fucking love me, want to promote me, said great things about me. I've never had asshole bosses. In fact, I've had the most incredible male mentors who have uplifted me and encouraged me, never harassed me. Like, I have had the best experiences. Why me and not someone else? Now someone could go fluke, coincidence, whatever. Uh, I would say because I have a lot of self-esteem and confidence in the workplace and in myself and the energy that I put out there. And so that I'm just not attracting that kind of behavior. But if it did show up, you better believe I would say something. I walk the walk, right? I'm definitely congruent when it comes to confidence. There are other areas of my life I need to be more congruent. I mentioned one before. One was with money, where I really hated looking at it. I don't like math. I don't want to deal with it. I don't know. I just don't want to deal with it. I hate it. I hate looking at bank accounts, logging in. I don't know, like Turbo, Tax Pro, like QuickBooks. I blew it off. Well, when you blow that shit off, it has consequences, right? So I'm doing the work to figure out, like, okay, I keep struggling over here with like blowing off my finances, then bullshit happening, and I have to go like figure it out and make sure it gets right or all this kind of stuff. And then it was just clear. I'm incongruent. So the way that I treat money is not the way that I feel about it. So how did I treat money? Blowing it off, inconsequential, doesn't matter, not a big deal. But if I ask myself, do I think money is inconsequential? Do I think money is not a big deal? No. No, in fact, I respect the shit out of it. I love it. Of course, I don't think it's inconsequential. Well, why am I acting like it? And this goes the same for, are you allowing someone at work to treat you in a certain way, but you wouldn't allow the person you're with to be treated that way? Are you coaching someone and coming to the rescue by saying, how dare you let them talk to you that way, but you're letting someone talk to you that way? Because I've seen that a lot. Coaches, things like that, someone who would give advice or someone who people go to for that, even if they don't professionally do it. And they're again incensed at the injustice in the client, the friend, and they go, how could you be spoken to like that by your husband, right? But then the person tolerates it at home themselves. Next time you see any kind of injustice and you're upset about it, just take a minute. It may or may not be valid, but just take a minute and go, is there anything in my life where that injustice is occurring and I'm not doing anything about it? I'm not saying you see an injustice in the world, go out there and stop a knife fight in the middle of the street. No, but I am saying intervening into your own life by recognizing what's happening over here, you know? I don't like what I see in this movie, in this dynamic, in this relationship I'm watching in a TV show. Why don't I like it? Break it apart. Why don't I like it? Well, I think the way he spoke to her was this, but why don't I like the way he spoke to her? It was demeaning. It was sexist. It was whatever the thing is. Now, do those things that bother me, are they happening to me in my real life? And am I just as incensed about them? And if you make a connection there, that's an amazing aha moment, because it gives you the opportunity to overcome it because you've recognized it. So don't want to belabor the point, but let's look at the common denominator. Where are you the common, and also where are you the common denominator in the good things? After you go through the list of where am I the common denominator, what are the themes of shit that I don't like that keeps happening and it seems like it's only happening to me and other people don't struggle with it, right? Or other people I know don't struggle with it, or I know a bunch of people that don't struggle with it, right? Doesn't matter where they are. And then you can ask after that, well, where am I the common denominator in awesomeness, right? Where do I see all the things in my life that go really well all the time, where I am the common denominator? So, I just mentioned one, right? Like my employment experience. And by the way, it doesn't even matter if, like, forget real W-2 employment. I ain't been talking about like billionaires or celebrities that I've house sat for. I've been in LA for a very long time, and I've house sat for lots of celebrities and people in their, $10 million mansions. Same thing. They love me, refer me to everybody, think I'm great. Never had a problem. One time had a problem many, many years ago. It was like 20 years ago. And this was not my fault. I had a boyfriend over, and we actually didn't have sex in someone else's house, but my boyfriend had brought his backpack over from stuff we had been traveling for the weekend prior, and he like dropped a condom, and it they found one on their floor and just went nuts. And I was like, oh God, I was so mortified and embarrassed because I have such a perfect record of employment. And to this day, by the way, that ex-boyfriend is now a friend. And this was like 20 years ago. And he occasionally says, I'm so sorry about that. I'm still so sorry about that. And I'm like, oh, you motherfucker. I got fired from a dumbass house sitting job because that ruined my fucking reputation. God damn. But it didn't really ruin the reputation, but it was just, that was the only time. It was like the only time I've ever had a shitty work experience in terms of either like getting fired or like, it literally, it's the only job I've ever been fired from. And again, I'm not saying if you have been fired that it's your fault, by the way. I just want to make that very clear. But if you're someone that's continually getting fired, okay, then it's you. And I'm not saying it's you and you're a shitty employee. It might be you attracting the wrong work environments. It might be you attracting the wrong bosses. Attraction intention is not about blaming the victim or blaming yourself. It's about onward and fucking upward, right? It's not to wallow in, oh my God, I can't believe I attracted this to myself. I must be a horrible human being if I keep bringing this in. No, it's shit, this keeps happening. I got to do some head work and some mental work and some emotional work and some vibrational work to get around this, get out of this, and maybe some action. Maybe I need to start looking for jobs. Maybe I need to ask better questions when I'm interviewed, so I'm interviewing them too. You know, maybe there's a new question. Hey, what kind of tone of voice do you talk to your employees in? Right? I mean, not that you would ask that, but you know what I'm saying. So I hope this was helpful for you. Of course, I'm always available. I'm mostly on Instagram. You can DM me anytime. You can email me at elle@elleruss.com. Any suggestions for solo episodes, happy to take a look at. And thanks so much for listening. Hey listeners, you know, over the years, a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture, and it's my #1 source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the superfood greens powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the organ complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their essential C complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/Elle Russ for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products, and I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.